On air on channel 1303 and live streaming on the website now. Well, our first order of business for the regular portion of the board meeting tonight is we have 3 sets of minutes for consideration for approval. I've reviewed them. I make a motion that we approve the February 8th, 2021 board minutes.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
I move that we approve the February 11th, 2021 minutes.
Second.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
I move we approve the February 18th, 2021 minutes.
Second.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye. Okay, I should know this. Was it Bill? Were you in? It was Barry.
What's the question? Oh,
Bill's.
yes, I reviewed the bills yesterday. They were all in order. I had a couple of questions. Paul answered them easily, and I move that we approve the bills as submitted.
Second.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
And then I reviewed the prepaid warrants as submitted by the Director of Finance via Mary Ann Lamb. I'm still not used to that yet after all those years of Chris Halligan. But they look in order, and I make a motion for them to be approved and paid.
I'll second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Well, this is going to be a hard one to follow because Police Chief Dennis Kohlmeyer, your first formal presentation as the Chief of Police of Webster Police, 4 days from your first official day, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Is this called indoctrination by fire?
I believe it is.
The podium is yours, Dennis.
I appreciate that. We're having a little technical difficulty with our PowerPoint, but the main point of me being here tonight is to talk about our police reform and collaboration plan that we're putting together. This is our initial kind of public briefing on how far we've come with it and which direction we're going and the process that's going to be involved. So the first, I think, kind of foundation to lay here is that I think there's been some confusion about why we're doing this and where this comes from. So this is a directive from New York State that every municipality that has their own police department needs to look at the services we're providing, how we're providing them, and how we're addressing our stakeholder needs. So as a police department, we've been doing this since before I started, obviously, around June timeframe. Chief Rieger initiated this process. As you can imagine, with this kind of large project, there's a lot of information gathering that has to happen. So that was really one of the initial foundations that we did as an agency. So Chief Rieger carried the ball most of the way. Upon his retirement, interim Chief Fosdick continued, and now I'm picking up the process to move it forward. As you can imagine, across 3 different leaders, there's a little bit of direction change that happens and a little bit of assessment that happens to our process, and we kind of refine it. So what we've done so far is we've had a couple initial attempts to get our stakeholder input into our process. We started that by Chief Rieger attending a lot of different meetings throughout the county, observing and shadowing other agencies as they went through the process. He participated in numerous meetings and subcommittees with some faith-based organizations within our community. And that kind of got the initial conversations going of how, what perspective we should be taking with our organization. So what we've done is started to incorporate that feedback. We did an initial online survey through the town website to get some basic feedback from those that are willing to provide it through an online forum. And based on those 2 things, we got the ball rolling on our internal review of our process and our policies. For those who don't know, our police department is accredited in New York State. It has been for quite a long time. So that really helped us and set us up for success when it came to addressing our policies and procedures. If you look through the 203 workbook that comes along with the mandate for this process, they identified 10 key strategies of concern that they really wanted municipalities to look at. And we were fortunate enough to have policies for pretty much all of those and training that addressed the ones that we didn't have a specific policy for. So when we start breaking down the workbook and the process that happens, obviously we want to hit the most critical elements first. So we address the strategies of concern. Next component that comes after the strategies of concern are strategies that help reduce racial disparities and help build trust. And we're already engaged in a lot of those different forums. So as we look through our policies and how we address our stakeholders, we look at community policing and getting our agency integrated with our community and making sure that's comprehensive and hits all of the stakeholder needs. So based on our initial process so far, we identified focus areas that we needed to divert our attention to. And you see on the screen there, intelligence-led policing is that first focus area. That allows us to use data to drive decisions, drive resource allocation, and really make sure we're targeting the right crimes and the right policies and procedures on an operational capacity. Diversification of the workforce. Obviously, we are subject to civil service policies and procedures when it comes to hiring. So we work through civil service in one of two capacities. One is either by hiring new recruits off civil service lists, and the other is through transfer officers. So really what our goal is, and I think we've done a fairly good job at trying to get this message out there, but it's obviously something that we can always improve upon, is work to diversify our staff and make sure that we are doing what we can to attract diverse populations to want to be police officers in the town of Webster and work for our agency. Community policing has always been a tenet of the Webster Police Department, and that shouldn't continue. So we're going to, or shouldn't stop. So we're going to continue to push that as a focus area. Atmosphere of openness and transparency. Those are ways that we can get feedback from citizens. Those are ways we can show them that we're an open book. We have really nothing to hide when it comes to how we conduct business and how we handle citizen complaints. The police as a guardian is an emphasis on being a protector, not necessarily always that warrior mindset that you sometimes hear through communication and through media about police officers always being prepared for the fight. We know that it's not always about the fight. It's about the guarding our citizens and being there as a protecting force. Training priorities are always assessed in our agency, and one of the things that we've already committed to as an agency is the CIT training for all our officers. We've already had 8 officers go through that week-long program, and we've committed like the other police agencies in Monroe County to get our entire sworn staff through that training to make sure that we are helping people in crisis. The Peelian Principles is kind of a broad concept in law enforcement. It's based on Sir Robert Peel's Guide to Policing. Essentially, it is your citizens in uniform. It's your law enforcement looking at their duties and responsibilities as citizens and as protectors. So those are some messaging things internally, and some of those are efforts that we're looking to focus our attention on as we move forward. And as we've looked through this process, we acknowledge that we haven't had good contact yet with all our stakeholders. So our plan to move forward with this is starting tonight, we're going to open the website application process for a stakeholder committee. The state has given us guidance on some of the required participants that they want to see on these committees, and others are recommended. And we're going to try to get as many people as we can to participate. So we're going to ask our residents to apply for this committee and try to be part of the process to help us look at our policies and procedures going forward. So I'm not going to go through the entire list of the stakeholders that we're trying to connect with, but that application process starts tonight, and it's going to go for a week. After that week is up, we will look at who's applied and try to get as many people involved in our committee. We're going to try to have biweekly meetings over a 2-month period to try to get as much input as we can and perspective on our policies and the plan that we're going to submit. At the same time, we have what I'd call a phase 1 draft of the work that's been done up to this point and where we think that we can start getting feedback from our residents as well. So we're going to submit that through the website also. Tomorrow we're going to open that up for residents to review and start soliciting feedback directly on the work that we have up to this point. And our target timeline would be the applications opening tonight, our phase 1 draft being released. We're going to go for a week. We're going to close the comments on the public feedback for that initial phase 1 draft and start the selection of the stakeholder process. March 18th, we are still going to request the board pass a resolution to submit the phase 1 plan to the state to meet the April 1st compliance deadline to the Office of Budget for New York State. And we are going to have our committee members selected by that March 18th board meeting. And then we are shooting to have our initial meeting start April 1st and then go for about an 8-week time period. Once we're done with our stakeholder input on our policies and procedures and the plan that we create as a group, then we're going to seek to have a public forum to review those recommendations for the policies. And then after we have vetted that process and updated our plan, we look to the board again for phase 2 to be approved and then submitted as part of the ongoing communication with our community. And that's that.
You do know, Dennis, when you said at the end, that's it. That's a lot.
That is a lot. So it is a pretty aggressive agenda that we're trying to push in, but we want to connect with as many people as possible and get as much input into our organization process as possible.
And also you have a deadline.
We do. We have the deadline for the initial submission. I think in a perfect world, we would have wanted this stakeholder process to start a little bit earlier, but we're doing it now.
And I can say that, Dennis, if to anybody watching at home or who sees this later, if anybody interprets this as we're all of a sudden fast-tracking this with a month to go before April 1st, I can assure you that that was not the case. You know, Chief Rieger was very much in tune with this, and we made a conscious decision that we couldn't really have Chief Rieger finish it, and then all of a sudden a new chief, yourself, who we didn't know who that was going to be back in December and January, that wouldn't be fair to all of a sudden hand you a baton of something you didn't have your bite at the apple of. So that was our gift to you as you came in the door. But there was a framework around it already.
Absolutely.
So I mean, it definitely was a thought-out, conscious decision to not finish it back in January, February, and get ahead of it, because then you would have just inherited something, and I know that that's not a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, and just to reinforce that point, this is an organizational process. This is a lot of different layers of our organization contributing to this. There was a lot of hard work put into the foundation that was laid and the initial report that's been generated for public review.
Because I even think like the 550 or 600 respondents to the survey, I think, Karen, that was December?
October, November.
Was it that far back? Was it October, November? So, I mean, this has been ongoing. It's not, so anyway, I won't belabor the point, but.
Yeah, and to be honest, it will be ongoing. Even after the process we've identified is over, we're always going to continually seek improvement and look for our stakeholders to be involved in our process.
Anybody else?
I know that the deadline for the first submission, I believe, was April 1st. Is there a deadline for that second?
No, I don't believe that there is any follow-up deadlines beyond the April 1st submission.
Okay.
Bill?
Oh, we're good, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Dennis?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. All right, will everybody get ready for the Paul Adams Show? Because I think you're the next, are you the next 6? Kinda? I guess, well, maybe next 7. But let's start out with number 3, the budget transfers. Paul, if you could give a brief explanation on what we're doing here.
Yeah, we have the last budget transfers for the 2020 fiscal year. We'll actually be closing the year within a few days. The major highlights on these transfers are basically to cover some revenue shortfalls that occurred within the recreation center, which were all COVID-19 related. And they're being covered by federal CARES Act money that we received through Monroe County. So we've got them covered that way. And we also had a reversal of a bill that we had sent out back in April of 2018 for the town of Penfield. It's a $66,000 bill that got reversed. There are many reasons for that, which we won't go into at this time. But it basically created a deficit in that account which had to be covered. So.
All right. Does anybody have any questions on those? Then I would make a motion to approve the final 2020 budget transfers as presented by the Director of Finance.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye?
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
All righty. Next up in the Paul Adams Show is the 2020 budget amendments. It's that time of year, isn't it, Paul?
Yes, it is. Yeah, so we have one last fiscal year 2020 budget amendment that we just need to clean up. It's actually more or less a correction of an error. Earlier in the year, we had transferred money into the CHIPS, the highway part-town CHIPS revenue account, and it turned out that that was an error. We didn't receive that much CHIPS money in the year. This is basically to reverse it back out.
Any questions? No. All right. I would make a motion to approve the final 2020 budget amendments as presented by the Director of Finance.
Second?
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye?
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
All right, Paul, I'll give you 5 seconds to catch your breath.
All right.
For the next one. People watching at home, this and that, I think it's important to understand that the town board, 2 to 3 days prior to the meeting, is sent supporting documentation on this information. And they're very good about making sure that they read it. And that's why a lot of times there's no questions on these things, because they have the information and they've already been able to glean things from it. So it just makes for a more efficiently run meeting until the supervisor runs his lips, right?
Well, and I do appreciate getting the information in advance. Thank you, Paul.
Yep.
for
Yeah,
that.
if there's any questions, we can clear them up ahead of time.
Yep.
So then-
Okay, Paul, the next one, the transfer of $87,900 from the sewer capital reserve to fund the remaining costs for capital project H0221. Could you just describe this quickly?
Yeah, the next two resolutions more or less go together. The first resolution is to transfer approximately $87,900 back to the sewer, or actually to transfer $87,900 from the sewer capital reserve into capital project H0221. And that project was basically to handle emergency sewer line repairs that occurred on Schlegel Road and on Gravel Road. We didn't know what the cost was going to be at the time, so initially we transferred $170,000 in from the capital reserve fund. Turned out the cost was $257,900, so we need to transfer the other $87,000 to finish up the project. And so Resolution 6, once the transfer is made, we'll go ahead and close out the capital project.
I kind of feel like, Patty, it's your department, you got to do these resolutions.
Well, I will, but I just also want to add that, you know, when you say that we budgeted, we anticipated it being X amount and it went way over, as we saw with the gravel road, especially with the pictures that were shown to us, until you dig up the ground and start getting into that pipe, you have no idea how far down the road it really needs to be replaced or lined or whatever it is that we have to do to remediate that. So it's sometimes a guessing game at best. So I would move that we transfer $87,900.22 from the sewer capital reserve to fund the remaining costs for capital project H0221 for the replacement and repair of sewer lines on Gravel Road and Schlegel Road.
Second.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
And subsequent to that, I would move that we close capital project, I'm sorry, is it HO or H0?
H0221.
H0221, which is utilized for the replacement and repair of sewer lines on Gravel Road and Schlegel Road.
Second.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye. All right, we're moving right along, but, you know, I can't help myself. I got to say two quick things, give you a little bit more time to save your breath, Paul, is that?
Sure, feel free.
Two things. One, because Joe Herbst is now retired, somebody's got to take over for him for Rain Man-esque stats, right?
Oh, boy.
I'll never meet his whatever, but I have been told by the sewer department, the sanitary sewer department, there are 400 miles of mainline sewer lines in the town of Webster. So when Councilwoman Cataldi said that you'd never know when these things break, you can't anticipate it a lot of times. We camera, we do this, that to try to stay ahead of it. But some of these pipes are very old, and when they break, it's hard to tell until you really get in and go down the line. I was at the Gravel Road one because it was President's Day last year that happened. The sewer guys would not let me get down in the hole. I wanted to, but they said that would be an insurance issue. So I just wanted to, that has to do with what we just were describing. Second thing is, for anybody at home who wants to be on the town board someday, I think they should talk to Patty Cataldi, who is the liaison to the sewer department, who spends her Friday mornings at pump stations and sticking her head down pipes to look at raw sewage come down to see if we have blockages. It's fun, isn't it, Patty?
It's a great
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, okay. Let's move on. Paul, I think the next two are similar, they're tied. If you could
Yes.
just,
Yeah, the next two have to do with capital project 80227, which was the renovation of the gym at the Recreation Center. We originally funded the project with a $125,000 transfer from the Parkland Trust Fund. And as it turns out, the entire project cost came in at $112,463.95. So we have $12,536.05 that can go back to the Parkland Trust Fund. So the first resolution is to approve the movement of that money back to the trust fund, and the second resolution is to close the capital project.
Okay.
it's your department, Barry.
I move to transfer the remaining funds totaling $12,536.05 in capital project H0227 to the Parkland Trust Fund.
Second?
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Furthermore, I would move to close the capital project H0227, which was utilized to make improvements to the gymnasium at the Webster Recreation Center.
Second?
Nope.
Aye.
Councilwoman Caldey?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye. Paul, do you think it's the dorky accountant in me that gets excited when a project comes in under budget and we get to
Hey,
put the money back?
I'm with you, Tom.
Yeah.
I know.
Just makes you feel good, doesn't it?
Chris Bilo managed it well.
He really did. That's
did.
great.
And it's beautiful.
And you don't
Yeah, it
have to be
came out nice.
dorky to appreciate that.
Well,
It
you know,
is-
you have to be a little bit dorky to
No.
appreciate that.
It's a brand new gym.
Yeah, it's really nice. I've used
It's
it.
beautiful.
You know what I like is when I go to Wegmans and I have people come up that are like, hey, and I'm like, oh boy, I'm about to get attacked. The pickleball courts are great.
Hey, I played Sunday. I was out there.
Did you?
Yeah,
All right. That's great.
love pickleball.
Well, the next one, as we know, I can make this resolution. I mean,
No,
this
no,
is.
no, 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 no.
No, you're right.
Nope.
I would move to authorize the supervisor to sign a 3-year, 2021 through 2023 contract with Rochester Lawn Care, Inc. for mowing the town services.
Second.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilwoman Caldey?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
The culmination of one heck of a bid process, huh?
Yeah, that was a good one.
Patty, can you read my chicken scratch here? Because if I'm not going to make a resolution to have me sign something, this is what I wrote down.
I can do that.
Does that sound about right? Okay.
So this resolution is something that we discussed at our workshop last week about the publication of the Webster Today newsletter, if you will, that goes out to all town residents. And we saw what the services that were going to be provided would include. And I would move that we authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with Palato Entertainment for the 2021 production of Webster Today, not to exceed $42,000, including postage. Did I get
Second.
that right?
You did?
Councilwoman Caldey? Councilwoman Caldey?
Aye, sorry, I didn't hear the second.
Sorry. Supervisor
I said
Flaherty?
second, yep.
Okay.
And
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
And Councilman Dean?
Aye.
can I grab my?
Yes, you may.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, and like I said, being an accountant, Paul,
Yes.
never, ever will the budget of $42,000 for the Webster Today, the Newtown Times, be exceeded.
No, we'll keep it under.
No budget transfers, no budget amendments.
Nope,
It is etched in stone.
that's in stone.
Okay, we are doing all right here. I am making a motion to approve Jamie Newtown as the Zoning Board of Appeals Chair through December 31st, 2021.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye?
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilwoman Caldey?
Aye.
For people who do watch these meetings consistently, I don't think it was our org meeting, but sometime in January, we had appointed Barry Barone as the chair. And I can't say enough about, Barry did a solid for this board being the chair in 2020 and was going to continue doing it in 2021. When Jamie Newtown came back onto the Zoning Board of Appeals about a month or so ago, Jamie and Barry have known each other a long time. Barry was glad to concede back to Jamie being the chair, and that's why we just did this. I think that board then internally decides amongst the five of them who is their assistant chair, or deputy chair, or whatever. I think that's how it works.
Vice Chair.
And I think they're deciding, vice chair, thank you. And I think they're going with Barry. And Barry's very happy. I think Barry's watching at home. Thank you for 13 months of chairing that board. Well, Brayton, I think you have to come up to the podium, don't you? So, approaching the podium now is the Director of Personnel for the Town of Webster, Brayton Connard, and he will describe what the board has been presented, which is the New York State mandated Public Employee Health Emergency Plan, and how it got, I'll hand the baton to you.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. As the board knows, on Labor Day, the governor signed a new law that requires all municipalities, towns, villages, school districts, public entities, everything, to have a public employer health emergency plan. The plan essentially is mandated to have certain elements that capture lessons learned during the initial phases of COVID, but with a mind towards the fact that the next health emergency could be anything, and we'll have to adapt to it when it happens. In preparation for this, the safety committee of the town, its chairman, Drew, and I educated ourselves through a number of webinars, conversations with our peers in other towns, and also borrowing from them because it's a good community to borrow from. We prepared a draft plan, shared it with department heads who provided their feedback and input, and as required by law, shared it with our 3 collective bargaining partners, and advanced copies, drafts were shared with the town board. The town is required to adopt the plan by April 1 of this year. The plan calls for it to be annually reviewed by the safety committee and to be kept up to date that way.
Wonderful. I know the board has had this in their possession to review for several days now. Did any
Got it
questions?
last week?
Several days?
Yes. And thank you for all your hard work on that, Brayden.
Thank you very much.
And the committee.
Yeah.
Considering when we entered the pandemic, we didn't have a policy, and we were flying the plane as we were building it. So hopefully that will not happen again with policies such as this. And we never like the unfunded mandates and some of the laws that come down upon us, but I think this one probably makes sense.
Yeah. I can just say this. I found out very quickly that government wasn't built to be run remote. And that really, back in mid to late March last year, when we had to send everybody home or non-essential, and that's always fun, as you say, making the planes we're flying. Now we got to decide who's essential and who's not essential.
And who wants to be essential and who
Right.
doesn't
It
want
was
to be.
just a real fun time. When you said that, collaborating with other municipalities, this and that, one of the things that I was most proud of during that whole time is that I know for a fact, from talking to other town supervisors, the town of Webster adapted the quickest and got the most people working from home, got the most productivity out of their employees for the taxpayers, still performing services.
Continuity of service, yes.
Yeah, and it really, and I use as an example all the time, I'm going to do a shout out again, Darla Roth in our building department. We were able to get her home scanner to her computer, logins, phone extension with a VoIP phone, and in April and May of last year, she processed 300 building permits. And if you think about it, there's 22 business days in a month, so in 44 business days, she processed 300 building permits, about 7 a day. And these weren't your big subdivisions. These were, everybody was at home. Decks, pools, They were our citizens who, and she was able to do all of that. And really, we got some great feedback from the citizens that, you know, they heard that their friends in other towns, they couldn't get building permits because it was shut down. That was a real victory for us. So we also gave some input to other towns in how to do things, and I'm sure they adapted into their emergency response plan. So I'll get off my soapbox on that, but
Holy crap.
yeah, no, you know, I'll get you home, Barry. For God's sakes.
I would move that we adopt the New York State Public Health, Employer Health Emergency Plan.
Second.
Third.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Come on, Bill. It's 8:09. 39 minutes. 14th resolution. We're almost done.
Brayton wanted to go home.
He doesn't want to go home. He loves it. Brayden, you have any other things you want to, you know? Or, oh, you're kind of, I don't think there's going to be any questions on this, but it might come up for you as the
I'll remain
personnel.
standing out of respect for you.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm going to make a motion to, yeah, we won't do any description of this one unless does anybody on the board need a description of this?
The energy?
Yeah, you moved ahead of one.
Oh,
We're at 13.
sorry, we're on 13. I lied, Bill, we're not almost done, you're right, I should have. Can you explain what we're about to, the number 13?
For the past few years, I think since 2015, the town has been in an intermunicipal cooperative purchasing agreement with Monroe County for gas and electric costs. And they've been providing energy through Fluent Energy. They basically go out to bid for the energy and handle the whole bid process, and we basically piggyback onto the bid. And this intermunicipal agreement to document that. And so this resolution would be approval to continue to participate. And the agreement would be signed through Monroe County's system. It's called Contract HQ. It's basically signed electronically.
Yes, it is. I'm sure the board remembers a few weeks ago in a workshop, we had another firm in here to talk about maybe doing a different configuration for our energy in the future. The more we looked at that, this was the way to go. When we looked at the history of being in this consortium or, you know, this group, and it just, you know, I think, you're all shaking your head, you remember that presentation.
And it served us well.
Yeah.
And a good point was that years ago, we looked at wind power down at, we hired some folks from NYSERDA, it was part of it, and also a local company to look at wind power down at the sewage treatment plant. And so they put up a temporary windmill and measured it, and they got all done. They came back and told us that through this, we're already purchasing energy so low that it wouldn't make any sense to do that.
Yeah.
So we're doing really well with these guys.
Yeah. And we did a checkup in the last month or two and looked at some other things, and
Yeah.
it's always good to do once in a while, and it showed that this is the way to go. You're right, Barry. It was the way to go years ago, and it's the way to go, in our opinion, today and for the next 5 years. So, I make a motion to approve the town of Webster's participation in the Monroe County Energy Aggregation Group for the contract period September 1, 2020 through August 31st, 2025.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
And by the way, Charlie, the county didn't make us do nunc-pro-tunc on this because they're chasing everybody around on this contract. You know, they didn't,
So it's the same situation for everybody, basically?
a lot of, just the way it all went down with COVID and
Yeah,
government.
I figured.
We've been out of contracts in September, but you know, we're good.
They finally caught up.
That's not a typo. It is September 2020, and we've been getting the bills and getting the.
Yeah,
getting
they
things
just
for the
kept us
last
on.
5 months, yeah.
Waiting for us to sign.
Okay, last but not least, so get ready, Karen, to put the phone number up and we'll do the round table. If no one calls, we'll be getting home at a relatively good hour. Does anybody have any questions about the next and last resolution of the evening?
No, this is something we've looked at previously.
We did it, then we rescinded it, now we're doing it again.
Yep.
Just trying to keep you on your toes, Bill. That's all we're trying to do, all right? Well, good. Then I make a motion to set a public hearing on March 18th, 2021 regarding the residency for position of town engineer to be advertised in the Webster Herald in the March 10th, 2021 edition.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty,
Aye?
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldo?
Aye.
Okay, I would assume Karen's got the phone number up. It comes in here. So we'll start the round table. Brayton, do you have anything else you want to say? Parting words to the crowd, or?
Keep wearing your masks, washing your hands, and social distancing. Lights at the end of the tunnel, hopefully.
Good message.
You're such a personnel guy. Paul?
Yeah, I'd
That's
like to
great.
say that this week, actually tomorrow, Sandy Stringer, who's worked for the town for 30 years, 6 months, and a couple of weeks, is going to retire. She's been outstanding. To me, she's like my right-hand person. She handles a tremendous amount of work, attention to detail. She's accurate, and she loves what she does. She's been here a long time, and we're going to miss her.
And I said to her, I said, now you're going to have some time to spend with your grandchildren. She says, you mean with my great-grandchildren?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, she's got a bunch.
It's not that old.
No? We're not going there.
I don't, you know what, I'm not going there. That surprises me.
Your HR person just left.
Yeah, that's right. I wouldn't
That's
have thought her to be able to be, okay. Anyway, Charlie, welcome back.
Thank you.
Was it a non-eventful trip from a
Relatively
standpoint?
speaking, a lot of driving, yeah.
How was it when you stopped in different states as far as, you know, were people like, get away from me, COVID or anything?
No, it was interesting. Pennsylvania, I don't think I saw too many people wearing masks. Florida, everybody was wearing masks. You would think not, but they were. But everything was wide open, though. I mean, everything is going.
Okay. I don't know, I haven't been to Florida since this all started. And I'll take your word
It
for
was my
it.
first time, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
In your life?
Yeah. Well, I was there for 3 hours once many years ago. Yeah, that was it.
Fun fact. Phone's not ringing. Bill?
Moving on.
Barry?
No, nothing. Well, we obviously just got through hiring a new chief of police, and we're in the process now of interviewing and getting ready to hire a new highway superintendent.
Yes, you are. I've heard it's been an interesting process. Yeah. Patty?
Been involved in the same process,
I
yes.
know.
It's been good. Interesting and good. And I have to say that also involved in the process of interviewing for the new police chief. And I really appreciate the thought and the process of interviews and canvassing employees and asking everyone for their input on what they're looking for in department heads and taking everyone's opinion into consideration. And I think it's a good process.
Our
Results in
new
a good
HR
hire.
director, Brayton, has really kind of led the charge on that. He's done a wonderful job. Made all of it possible.
He's been a godsend for, you know, I mean, did everybody come to work for the town at the same time 30 years ago? Did you hire
I think so.
a bunch of people on the same day, and then they're all like, hey, we've got 30 years in, and the way that pension system, what was it called, Tier 1 or whatever? back
There is
then?
no more tier ones.
What-
I was the last.
Were you? Yeah. Yes. But I totally understand the economics and whatever. Why not retire?
Right.
You're young. You can either sit at home and do nothing, watch your kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, or you can go into a second career.
Yeah.
I don't blame them. Kind of jealous, but
Me too.
we're not going to get any calls. So, Dolly, you're always last but not least
I
as
have
the town
nothing
clerk.
to share.
Nothing to share. Well, in that case, unless Bill, you want to go on with some speech for 10 minutes or 20 minutes.
That's your side of the podium.
This meeting is officially adjourned.